Ready when you guys are. Lindsay, you ready?
Welcome to another episode of Video Store Rejects. This is a podcast where we discuss directors' filmographies and our favorite film franchises. I'm your host, Cody House. With me, as always, are my co host, Chris Jacobs, our social media content manager,
How's it going, everyone?
and then our researcher and fact checker extraordinaire, Lindsay Jacobs.
Hello, hello.
And a returning guest, Mr. Aaron Lowe. Welcome back.
Hey, Rejects. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Always
Yeah.
welcome. Glad to have you. And today we are delving into the cult of legend. We are discussing the films of Ridley Scott. These are his first four films in his filmography. And we're wrapping up this first part of his career with what some say is a disastrous movie, what others say is a beautiful disaster, what others it's a cult film. We're talking legend. And Aaron, you graciously said I needed a guest for this show, and you're like, "Oh, I like this movie. I can talk about it." What are your thoughts on Ridley Scott in general as a director?
Ridley Scott's directed definitely some of my favorite films. Of course, Alien. I don't think a conversation can be talked about with Ridley Scott without bringing up Alien. Also really enjoy Kingdom of Heaven. I enjoy Gladiator. He's definitely got a lot of films under his belt that are enjoyable. And I actually watched Legend kind of later in life. I was probably well into my 20s when I first saw it. But I'm a huge fan of just 80s fantasy films in general. And I saw this, and I saw that it was Tom Cruise. I'm like, wow, Tom Cruise is so young. This is like, I think shortly after he had done Risky Business, which I feel like Risky Business is probably what put him on the map. And this was a couple years later. So it's just really interesting to see just, boy face Tom Cruise in anything. So when I first saw it, I did enjoy the film. And of course, as always, before a review with you guys, I always refresh myself on the film. And well, sometimes you watch a film again, you're just like, So I did enjoy it for the most part. It does have its issues. It does have its problems. I would say its greatest strength is it is very visually appealing in some parts. I would say actually the visual appeal comes from the sets. The sets in this film are breathtaking. Anything in the forest with like all the kind of like the fallen leaves and like the little, tufts of pollen or whatever everywhere. It looks like a magical forest. They did a very good job kind of getting that idea across. I like the swamp. That looks good. Darkness's castle looks good. Just when it became a winter wasteland, it looked good. I like this movie for its set aesthetic, I guess, and its costuming is great when you can see it.
Right. That's what strikes me is that it was, and we'll get into it, that the story seemed all over the place, but visually it was amazing. It was on point. It's like they went in with this epic story to tell, but just they couldn't deliver it. It seems like it just bounced around, and I don't know. The story didn't hit. And for some reason, I'm like you. For some reason, when I watched it when I was younger, I seem to have liked it for some reason enough to have it in, on VHS. But when I went back and reviewed it for the podcast, it hit different as an adult. Like it didn't hit as hard as it did as when I was younger. And again, the only thing that really stood out that was on point were the visuals.
Yes.
So, Chris, I know you watched the director's cut, but Aaron, you watched the theatrical cut, which is very short. It's like only 89 minutes.
An hour and a half minutes. An hour and a half minutes. An hour and a half. About 93 minutes, I think, specifically.
Well, mostly there's just a few changes. So here's basically what happens. So like in the director's cut, Jack and Lily are not so black and white characters. Like Jack actually lies to Gump, the wood elf or whatever he is, about showing Lily the unicorn instead of owning up to it first. In the Meg sequence, he actually tries to distract Meg instead of directly trying to attack her, which Chris, as a big Star Trek fan, do you know who's playing Meg?
I'm sorry, repeat that. I had a bark.
The whatever swamp creature, whatever she is, Meg, that tries to eat them when they're on their journey. That's played by Robert Picardo.
Ah, okay, nice.
So if I'm not mistaken, the director's cut, or whichever cut is the more definitive, kind of fleshed out one, I believe that's the one I own. It's just in a friend's storage right now, so I didn't have ready access to it.
That's what I have the 2-disc version somewhere, and I cannot find it. It had a beautiful, it had a cool clear slipcase on it. And
that's the one I have.
And then the biggest thing is the ending. In the director's cut, they do not run off together in the sunset about to do whatever they're going to do. Like, Lily decides that, we're from two separate worlds. We need to just stay friends. I'm friend zoning you, and leaves. And then Jack runs off into the woods, and you see like all the elves and whatever those guys are with the unicorns. So those
are they still doing the awkward wave? The last
there's still long? The awkward wave at the end, but like
if I can hop back onto Meg for a second, I have actually a couple of things to bring up with her. In the director's, is it the director's cut, Cody? Is that basically what it's called? Or okay, so in the director's cut, I seem to remember Jack maybe tried flattering Meg the Bog Witch, where in this one he just pretty quickly was like, nope, and just took her head off.
Yeah, in the director's cut, he's trying to use flattery to distract her.
Yeah, so very much like a Bilbo with Smaug situation. The second thing, I forgot that witch's name was Meg, and when it came up, I laughed so hard because I feel like, okay, this is a Family Guy bit. Because you know how Meg is dogged on a Family Guy all the time. I just feel like this sounds like something Peter would say in regards to Meg. It's like you're a bog witch or something like that. That's all I had on Meg. It just tickled me whenever I saw that.
Yeah. So those are the key difference. And of course, the score is the biggest difference because Jerry Goldsmith originally did this score, and for whatever reason, the studio wanted something more contemporary. So they had Tangerine Dream do the score for the U.S. version. And of course, you don't hear that song at the end of the director's cut either. It's just more orchestral music from Jerry Goldsmith.
Right. So, I mean, Tangerine Dream wasn't a terrible substitution for Jerry Goldsmith, but it was just, I imagine the original score would have been much more different. It's kind of like that difference in the Neverending Story between the German release and the U.S. release. You know, you didn't have, what was I forgot the name of the band that did the song The Neverending Story. That's nowhere to be seen. And they use different songs at different key points during the film. So, yeah.
My biggest thing, well, I mean, talking about it, there seemed to be like a bevy of 80s fantasy films, and like a majority of them did not do well financially. They like have only lived on as like cult films from rentals and cable watches, like, you know, not just Legend. The Neverending Story, I'm not sure. That might have been actually a financial success, but like The Dark Crystal and The Labyrinth and Willow and Excalibur and Conan and
Kroll.
Yeah. And I remember
fantasy.
I have a soft spot for Kroll.
Oh, I do. Oh, I have a major soft spot for Kroll. I love that film.
I think I vaguely remember watching this for the first time on TNT as a double feature with Excalibur. And I remember some channel at the time was advertising it. It might have been Sci-Fi Channel, but it was like around the time Eyes Wide Shut came out. So they were like trying to show it off like as the trailer for Eyes Wide Shut, but it's Legend, like with the name font and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm surprised is that he got to make this movie after Blade Runner was such a financial failure for him. But this was in development before he did Blade Runner, so that might have been part of it. And also, even though Blade Runner is considered a flop, it did basically make its money back. It just didn't make as much as they wanted it to.
So interestingly enough, they actually approached Ridley Scott to do this movie while he was kind of developing Blade Runner. So unicorns were on his brain. Of course, anyone who's watched Blade Runner knows what I'm talking about, which is why he was like, I'm going to do this, but there's going to be unicorns in it. And they said, okay, cool, do it. And they brought him in. And the unicorns look good.
Unicorns into his other bodies of work. I think that would have been that would have just enhanced it.
Yeah, agreed. So unicorns look good aesthetically.
I have to say, we were talking about the first viewings of this movie. I owe this movie an apology. This is the only one. For confusing it with another film. When I remember watching it, I remember watching a movie where they baked kittens into a pie. And after that, I was like, I'm never watching that dumb movie again, Tom Cruise. You can't make me, even if Tim Curry's in it. And it turns out, doing homework for this movie, that it was actually a movie called Young Einstein that was an Australian movie that came out in 1988. It was
Serious Yahoo?
It was directed by, it was directed by Serious Yahoo, and they did. And I saw it way too young. I don't even know how old I was.
I remember that movie, Young Einstein with Serious Yahoo, yeah.
That was the director.
Or Yahoo Serious.
Yahoo Serious.
Yeah.
Not the same movie.
Serious Yahoo, or like...
What a name.
Yahoo, Serious.
He was like a big thing in Australia back in the 80s, early 90s.
I feel bad, though, because I was holding it against Legend this whole time, and it wasn't even the same movie.
So
that's funny.
You guys mentioned, and yeah, the story is a little all over the place, but if you look at like the production, it was like even more so from the original scripts of what they cut it down to. But I dig this movie. I mean, it's got great visuals. The production design is amazing. The makeup is superb, and
very good.
Tim Curry as Darkness has got to be one of the best villain performances ever.
Oh, to me, he is the best part of that whole movie.
Yeah,
absolutely, he's the best part of the movie.
Makeup and acting and his role are, to me, that is the top performance of that movie. His look and the way he handles it, and the way they portray him, like walking on his hooves, and like when he ran at Tom Cruise's character and his horns like pinned his head against the wall. Like that was badass. Like it was visually stunning, like visually frightening.
His look was incredible. I'd say probably the most convincing like devil/demon costume makeup work that I've ever seen for something like that. It was, you're right, he looked phenomenal.
And paired with Tim Curry's voice.
Yes.
Was just
great choice all around.
Perfect. Like it couldn't have been any better, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, and what's interesting is Ridley Scott originally wanted Richard O'Brien, who played Riff Raff and wrote Rocky Horror, to play Meg, but as he was watching Rocky Horror, he saw Tim Curry and was like, that guy would be perfect for Darkness. Like, and yeah, absolutely. And what I find interesting is that his look of Darkness, which is basically the devil, right? He's basically playing the devil, has like that look you see it now, like it's in South Park, like the devil design in South Park is kind of similar to this. And there was even a commercial or a series of commercials a few years ago. I forget what they were advertising, but it had the devil in it, and it was basically the Legend Devil.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
it was Ryan Reynolds commercial, wasn't it?
I don't remember Ryan Reynolds being involved in the commercial, but
well, no, he made them. It was for his it was for some dating site, and it's where the devil meets this chick, and they're falling in love, and like they're witnessing the end of the world or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, so I mean this movie is kind of iconic and in the pop culture lexicon, even though it was critically appalled when it came out and like nobody watched it, but I guess it found a life or a cult following through rentals and cable. And then in the year 2000, they discovered the print of the director's cut.
I used to see it on TNT all the time, like growing up.
Yeah, it used to be on cable a lot, and I think even Tom Cruise kind of disowned this movie for a long time. Like he didn't want anyone to know he didn't want to talk about it or anything because he didn't like it, or I guess because it was considered a bad movie at the time.
You know why I probably like this growing up is because of The Legend of Zelda. Like,
well,
huge fan of that. Like growing up and playing, I started out on NES, but my game was A Link to the Past on NES. That was my jewel.
Funny Zelda. You mentioned that. This movie is very influential on Zelda, and doesn't Tom Cruise basically kind of play Link? That's who
I associated him with. Like I was again really big into Legend of Zelda, and when I watched this, I was like, "Oh, dude, that's Link," and she's Zelda.
Yeah, which his performance I wouldn't say is necessarily great, but
he's just there for a face. Like he's there for looks.
I think they did a good job not letting him talk too much. Honestly, if he talked more, I think the storyline would have been.
And you can't escape Middletooth. Like every time I watch it now,
I always escape Middletooth. I'm sure.
I always look for a Middletooth. Nothing against it. It's something I automatically
like Christian Bale's eye wart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's like right here. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Thanks. Every time I watch a Christian Bale movie,
I know. It's real distracting when it's Batman.
And then I'm gonna be just like every time I watch a movie with what's her name from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley. Her nose. I'm just looking at her nose the whole time, and the way it kind of squinches on her face, I'm just like, nose.
She's doing that on purpose to be cute. How dare you?
Yeah. I feel like
Austin Powers with the mole.
Yeah, I feel like Austin Powers. Nose.
There's another lesson we can learn from Austin Powers.
Middle tooth.
Middle
Was that a Scientology job though?
This is pre-Scientology Tom Cruise.
So
Days of Thunder is around the time he was dabbling with, because that's the earliest accounts of David Miscavige showing up on set.
It had to be before that, because that's where he meets Nicole Kidman, and his first wife, Mimi Rogers, is who gets him involved in the Church of Scientology.
I was gonna say she was the gateway wife to Scientology. Mimi Rogers was.
Now he's.
I did not know that Scientology had been around.
Bumping elbows with the Supreme Overlord Zemu right there.
But yeah, Aaron, you were talking earlier on. Yeah, this is right after Risky Business, All the Right Moves. So he is kind of a up and coming actor, but he's not quite Tom Cruise, the movie star yet. Because this is
what's crazy is the following year he made Top Gun.
with Ridley Scott's brother, Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Which does make him a movie star.
Yes, very much so.
What do you think that sibling rivalry is like, Tony and Ridley?
Well, sadly, Tony isn't with us anymore. He died 10 years ago, but they are both very visually striking directors because I both believe they got their starts in commercials, and I both believe they have an art school background. But they're very different styles. Like, you would associate Ridley as like, oh, that's a fine piece of art. Like, he's like, oh, I make art. And Tony Scott's like, oh, I want fast cars and cigar smoke and explosion. Is Tony the younger brother?
Two different filmmakers.
I'm gonna Google it now.
Basically,
sounds like a brother thing to want to do, like more explosions, more chaos. Yeah. That's my bet.
So what I'm hearing is Ridley Scott is Christopher Nolan, and Tony Scott, right? Tony Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Scott is Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny you mentioned that. There would be no Michael Bay if Tony Scott didn't make movies, because basically Michael Bay is a less talented Tony Scott.
Did he cite him as one of his inspirations by any chance?
I don't think so, but he should, because that school of directing kind of starts with Tony Scott, like that slick music video style kind of starts with him. But what I was going to say is that Tom Cruise and Mia Sara both, even though I wouldn't say they're great performances, they are playing with the material of what they're in. Like, this is a fairy tale. Like, they are speaking in like poems and rhymes that you would read if you were reading a fairy tale. Like, this is a fairy tale come to life.
Pretty much.
And like, Ridley Scott made the decision that this should be an original story, so we can make it for film instead of trying to bring a classic story to life. It'll be much easier. And it definitely is Disney inspired just by the sheer visual look of it. Like, I don't know how your guys' copies looked that were digital, but my Blu-ray was pristine. Like, it was gorgeous looking. Like,
oh, yeah.
Well, actually, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up to you guys. I don't know if this was just my experience or if it was y'all's experience as well. So on the scenes where there's less lighting, I noticed kind of like a smoky shadow kind of paste that was over. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Just like over scenes. Like, there'll be sometimes when a character walks back and they're shrouded in darkness, it just looks like a smoky shadow person is there. Now, was that because I watched the digital version, or did you guys have the same experience?
There were a few scenes that seemed very like that same dreamy storybook haze, maybe.
Yeah,
it looked a little filmy, and I thought that maybe that's what they were cutting back into the movie.
That they couldn't fix.
That they were like deleted, when they restored it or did the director's cut. I kind of thought that those were the scenes that looked like that looked kind of filmy in a way, like they couldn't be all the way cleaned up, and they were just kind of stuck back in the movie like that. Because you've seen a movie where they've cut in deleted scenes or other footage, and it looks a little off. You can tell that it was cut footage. So I don't know. I mean, that might be one explanation, but.
It could be. And I don't know any other way of describing it. It would be better if we were all in the same room and I could just pause and be like, it's this right here. This is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
But I assumed it could have been like an editing thing, or because it was digital. Because here's the deal. I don't remember that I own it on DVD. I do not own it on Blu-ray. So I don't remember the DVD looking like that. So it could just be that I was streaming it. I don't know.
I think I vaguely remember seeing some shadowy figures. All I know is that all how colorful this movie, these colors really pop, like when
Oh,
the
yes.
wind's blowing and there's those pink flowers, or the snow, or the smoke.
The pollen. I would like to call it that. The fairy tale pollen. That's
what it looked like to me.
I'd be like,
with like all the leaves falling down.
Yeah. It did look a little hard to breathe.
That one sequence when Lily was going to touch the unicorn, like all those pink blossoms were just like fluttering everywhere. I mean, it was very gorgeous. You know, the set, like again, the sets were just incredible.
Absolutely. And you want to know, I think this might be the first time he did it in his career, but the scene where he jumps into the water to go get the ring because he's like, whoever catches this ring will marry me. When he's swimming under the water, that's Tom Cruise doing that. And apparently there were like alligators like so many feet below because they shot that in Florida, because this, I guess, was after the infamous set fire that happened to the set while they were filming.
Oh, no.
Oh. I thought you meant they just put alligators down there as motivation for Tom Cruise.
I mean, he would probably do it
quick.
He wanted to feel like he was fighting real fairy tale monsters, so he was like, put alligators in there. I'm not afraid. I'm Tom Cruise.
Well, since Tom Cruise has done his own stunts pretty much since the beginning, I'm not even surprised by this even a little bit. Like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, his stunts in, just as an example, in the Mission Impossible franchise, just getting more and more death-defying. It's crazy.
Well, he's going into space for a movie, so...
Yep.
Is the next one going into space?
I don't... That is not a Mission Impossible movie. That's a
it's something else. Okay. Because I was about to say, that's really one of the only frontiers they have left in Mission
Impossible. I think they got the go-ahead. So they're, like, actually prepping to...
Launch him into the sun?
Yeah, launch him into the sun.
Wait, is this hold on? Is this a movie he's doing, or is he actually going?
No,
to
they're gonna do a movie about going to the moon. It's the same guy that did Edge of Tomorrow and American Ultra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Go to outer space.
Yeah, that's the next step in the Tom Cruise evolutionary scale. There's it's space.
Please handle Tom Cruise.
But yeah, because ever since the whole Scientology and Katie Holmes debacle, he has not really worked with because he used to work with all the biggest directors in Hollywood, and now he kind of just works with these 3 or 4 journeyman directors. Like, those are his guys now, and he does just action movies where he plays likable characters. But off topic real quick, do you guys remember briefly on social media, I think it's on Twitter, where Justin Bieber challenged Tom Cruise to a fight in a cage match?
Yeah.
I missed that?
I kind of wanted to see
what?
that.
So disappointed.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
I forget. It might have been around the time Mission Impossible 6 was coming out. So 2018. All I remember is some people were commenting and okay, but if you lose, you have to join the Church of Scientology. And I was like, one, shame on you, Justin Bieber, for trying to challenge an older man to a fight. But 2, I'm sorry, I don't think you could take Tom Cruise.
No, I don't think he could either, man.
He does not possess the intensity that Tom Cruise does.
He does his own stunts. I guarantee you Justin Bieber doesn't do his own stunts.
And Tom Cruise is a little off, so you don't want to fight somebody that's
it has nothing to lose. That's right.
We're talking about a man who jumped on Rosie's couch.
Justin Bieber looks like the guy on the crew that disappears after payday. He's going to buy
the first person to disappear during a horror movie.
He gets the check.
I forget. Someone posted a picture of how he looked when he was just young and he was coming up, and then how he looks now. And it's like somebody said, does now Justin Bieber look like you would be like he's trying to lure young Justin Bieber into a van?
Yes, exactly. And Aaron's right. Anybody who has the spiritual cojones to jump on Oprah's couch is not afraid of anything.
Was it Oprah's couch?
Yeah, it was on Oprah.
If Justin Bieber,
I thought it was on the Rosie O'Donnell show.
No, it was right before he trapped Katie Holmes in a marriage.
If Justin Bieber were a breed of dog, he would be an Aaron Carter.
No, that's
yeah.
He would be.
That's
I don't want to degrade dogs that much by furthering that analogy.
My God,
I use that in a political way, so I thought I'd switch it around. I originally said that if what's his name?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, if Kyle Rittenhouse were a breed of dog, he would be a George Zimmerman.
Also good.
Yeah,
that's good. Though.
Someone quipped that George. I was like, I don't know. Somebody quipped something about George Zimmerman. I was like, It was like sticking up for George Zimmerman. I was like, no. Anyway,
so you guys want to know an interesting story about that Oprah interview?
Always.
So originally, Steven Spielberg was supposed to be there with Tom Cruise because it was promotion for War of the Worlds, but Spielberg couldn't make it. So in an alternate universe, would that not have happened if Steven Spielberg was there?
Wow.
Right, because he would have had the water bottle that he sprayed Tom Cruise with. Get down! Get your shoes off of Oprah's couch. Leave yourself. Act like you were raised better, Dane.
Well,
I can't unsee
it. It has holy water in it.
I say that because they've never worked together after that.
Goodness.
Well, he can be. Cruise can be a bit of a diva, from my understanding. So
I feel like his doing all his own stunts from the beginning was like his version of taking a small dose of iocane powder every day. He knew it was gonna like buy him some points when the rest of his life was absolutely clown shoes, bananas, crazy.
Yeah, his powdered sugar is PCP for sure.
Exactly.
You know, all the problematic things with him, but he is still one of our most compelling movie stars. And another thing I always hear about him is if you talk to him, he has your full attention for however long that time period is. Like, he is locked in the conversation with you.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's an argument that I had kind of with myself earlier and not out loud with Christopher like I wanted to. Just because someone is very good at something, does that mean we should keep letting them be good at those things and keep giving them a platform to do those things if they are harmful in other ways? Because a lot of people say that about certain public figures who had a lot more power than they probably should have. They're very charismatic. That's great. Charisma is really important along with other qualities. So is charisma really a saving grace, or does it just make the rest of us feel better about enjoying whatever works we appreciate about that person? Because yes, he's good in this. He's great in this. It was a beautiful like fairy tale book of a movie. But do I really want to like recommend or applaud the work of someone who's friends with someone who disappeared their wife, just like into the ether? I just have to ask that question. Like, I know it makes people uncomfortable, but that's kind of the point. Like, his charisma makes it easy to be like, oh, he's so good in movies. Oh, she's so good at this. Oh, they're so good at the thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
No, that's completely valid, and I would think it's the latter. I don't think it's an excuse, but for whatever reason, I don't know if because they can't link how much involvement he has with all this stuff. I don't know, but
right, to a certain extent, obviously he didn't like disappear anyone that we know of or recognize or remember. And he can't control the people he's associated with past a certain point.
All I can guess is because his problematic problems aren't as clear cut as, say, someone like Mel Gibson or Josh Whedon or Woody Allen, where it's not like directly harming others, so it's a little more shady. I don't know.
Yeah, I get the feeling, the sense, especially from more recent stories about Tom Cruise, that he is very much working on harm reduction. I know he flipped his lid about COVID safety on a movie set recently, but again, it flipped over into like maybe more abusive behaviors.
Yeah, there was like question of maybe he went too far. He also gave back his Golden Globes over the whole racist stuff going on with the Globe Association and the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Right. I feel like older Tom Cruise is like, oh, okay.
Well,
I see that. I see more than I maybe did right in the thick of fame and fortune and attention.
I think that's also why we're not seeing like the acting performances he was giving, like from the late 80s to early 2000s. Like, if you notice, he's actively playing likable characters. I don't think he's had an on-screen kiss other than in The Mummy, which I haven't seen, and I hear that's an atrocious scene. But like, he doesn't really have on-screen romances or physical romances anymore with his actresses.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like
I forgot there was another Mummy movie.
I haven't seen it. I hear
Universal has tried to launch a MonsterVerse for like the last 3 films. Like, it was going to start with, what was it, Dracula Untold?
Dracula Untold. Yeah, and I forget what the other one was, but the Invisible Man was really good.
Yeah, and then they did, the new Mummy, which burned. They were trying to set up their own kind of like MCU, except with monsters. And like how all the monsters are going to have to band together to fight an even bigger, worse monster or something like that.
Everybody is trying to do an interconnected universe, which is also why I think this movie should be appreciated more, because this was an original movie, not based on anything, not trying to interconnect it to the Ridley Scott universe, other than if you want to really deep and be like, oh, it's the same unicorn from Blade Runner. But I wish I could go back in time, take movie audience and critics, and then transport them to the present day, and then maybe they'd be a little more appreciative of some of these older movies they crapped on that really didn't deserve it. It's like, you just didn't know what was coming. Like, and I'm not look, opinions are valid, but I'm just saying, like, like, this movie's at least trying. It's not like it was terribly made just because there's some story issues.
No, you're definitely right.
And the quality of the film is 100% is A+. If you watch it without any dialogue, if you just watch it with the soundtrack and the Foley and all the scenes and all the attention paid to make it its own fairy tale, it's amazing. It's just following a plot.
Yeah.
If you like to follow plots, don't watch Legend.
I don't know. I guess I'm a little just too like infatuated with the look of this movie, because I'm even fine with like the rhymey dialogue that the characters are speaking, like especially the head goblin.
I don't have a problem with rhymey dialogue. I have a problem with setting someone up and being like, you did it, you killed them, that was the last one. You had all this time for that whole setup to her touching a unicorn to be like, no, don't come back, stop, please. Stay with me. Stay away from the unicorn.
It's almost like he doesn't say it. Like, he doesn't like say, hey, if you touch that unicorn, you're going to fuck us all. Like, that's just...
Exactly.
Yeah, he should have warned her, but then, like, I think he's, like, conflicted with, like, how he feels. But then when she goes to touch it, it's like he's done. He's like, oh, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
Like,
how would she have known?
Exactly.
You think she was supposed to be tempted by it? You think maybe that people
Uh-huh.
are tempted, and if they can refuse the temptation, it's kind of like the ring. Okay, the ring of power.
If you can resist the draw,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the
are-
guy that compares this to Lord of the Rings. Okay, it's like, I guess unicorns are like the ring of power. If they offer it to you, or they're gonna show it to you, if you can refuse the temptation to touch it, then I guess you pass the test.
That
And you
sounds
can,
like some Thor's hammer worthiness baloney, and I
you
don't
can
like that
frolic.
either.
You can frolic freely with the unicorns. I guess I don't know.
But I think that's where the story goes, is with her being tempted, because that even happens when she's in Darkness Lair. Like, Darkness is trying to tempt her, and
Right.
like the original script was way weirder and darker than what the final product was, which I'm glad
It
they
went through
didn't.
several rewrites.
I'm glad it didn't go in the direction that was in the script, especially because of Mia Sarah's age while they were filming this.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
Yeah.
Hey, she had a child with one of Sean Connery's children. Found that
Yes. Mia Sarah was married to Sean Connery's son. And interestingly enough, do you know who she's married to now, which has nothing to do with this film, but has similar vibes of the style of what this film is?
Who's she married to now?
Who's that?
She's married to Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
there you
okay.
go. There it is.
Nice.
Great. Yeah, the apple didn't fall far from the tree on that one.
Yeah.
Man.
But and Ridley Scott tried to get Brian Freud, who did the design work for the Dark Crystal and the Labyrinth, for this, but he turned it down. I don't know if he was working on the Labyrinth by that point, but I didn't know Rob Bottin did the effects for this. The guy who did The Thing.
Oh,
if
nice.
I'm not mistaken, I think the Labyrinth came out the same year as Legend. I think they're both 1985.
86 is Labyrinth, but I think Legend actually didn't get a U.S. release till 86. So,
oh, gotcha.
So that's probably correct, and both were, not received well, did not do well. Both feature young girls being tempted by monstrous older men. Yes, I'm counting the Goblin King as a monstrous older man, even though he looks like a dude.
Yeah.
But her story is very similar to the Greek mythology story of Persephone, like her being tempted by Hades. And the design of Darkness is of a satyr. Well, a little centaur too, with the horns and the speed, but a satyr, because satyrs are tempters, in Greek mythology.
Except that Hades isn't inherently an evil force. Hades is just like a middle manager at this point of what happens to your soul after you die, whereas Tim Curry is bringing the heat as the literal embodiment of temptation.
And doesn't his lair look exactly what you think hell would look like?
Pretty much.
Yes. It's I think, isn't it Dante's Inferno that gave us that picture of hell though? Like, it's not actually in the Bible anywhere that it's all craggy underground cave situation.
Yeah.
But like that scene where they're in the prison cell or whatever, and you see these minions or whatever they are, these monstrous things like torturing something. It's like, it's terrifying.
Yeah, that looked like a kitchen almost. I thought that was the kitchen. They were.
Well, I think it was.
You could see in the background they were chopping this dude up to eat, or chopping this dude up with a cleaver.
They're all about recycling.
Yeah, recycling.
They use every part of the man.
That's right.
It's nice of the underworld.
Yeah, nothing goes to waste. Then they make bone broth with the bones.
Off subject, guys. My internet stinks really bad, so I go back and forth between the camera and
being able to look
and
up
audio because it starts to lag a little bit, and it's one of those things. So
no problem, man.
Just in case you're like, why does he keep going like off camera?
No, you're fine.
You have a reason.
Country internet.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron, the other difference between the director's cut and the theatrical cut, there is no prologue about the light and darkness and how they're connected and how one has to be there for the other and yada yada.
Right.
But for whatever reason, like a lot of these, because this happened with Blade Runner 2, which while the theatrical cut has narration, like I guess studios felt like they had to hold audience members' hands. Like apparently they couldn't get this movie. Like it's not an overly.
That's a fair assessment of some audiences, though. Like,
yeah, some audiences are clueless.
Right.
Which is why maybe they shouldn't do test screenings. Like, I know sometimes it helps just to get a general vibe of what the movie feels like, but maybe don't do it all the time because sometimes you get like where they like butcher a movie like this, where
yeah, and like really honestly, I feel like if you're going in to pre-screen a movie, I feel like you're automatically going in with the mindset, okay, what's wrong with this film that we can make better? So it's in a way you're kind of imparting your vision on what you think the film should be instead of what the director's vision of the film should be. Because sometimes
imagine what
the best stories are the ones that aren't meddled with. You know,
imagine what test audience reactions would have been to episode 1 if we had, and I'm not hating on episode 1. I'm one of the few that enjoy the prequels, but then we won't
actually. When episode 1 first came out, it was received very well. Like people praised it quite a bit, but it was later that people backtracked on it.
You know, yeah.
Well, now there's a whole generation that's reclaimed it as like, well, that's what I grew up on. So you know, there's different opinions. Just like this movie was, people thought was horrible. When it came out, but now people are like, I don't know, it's kind of cool. Tim Curry's awesome. It's pretty. It's got cool effects.
Right.
It does. Well, some of the CGI, pardon me, some of the CGI is a bit dated, like when he was coming through the mirror. But you know, for 1985, it looks really good.
Yeah, and here's some interesting things. Do you guys want to know some actors they almost cast instead of Tom Cruise for Jack?
Nice. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Booger.
Johnny Depp.
Curtis.
Okay.
Robert Downey Jr.
Wow.
Who would have been the youngest, so he would have been closer to the age of the actor playing Lily. And
Curtis
Jim Carrey.
Carrey.
Wow. No, remember, guys, this is before we knew who Jim Carrey was. So
I know it. I wonder if, hey, just imagine
I think it would work. I think I'm here for that. There are people to this day dressing up as the live action Grinch for a holiday job. There's Jim Carrey could have pulled it off.
Hey, Lily, don't touch the unicorns.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
No, that would have done it. That would have worked.
I'm sorry.
Aren't you devastated though when they shoot the unicorn with the poison dart?
It's sad. It is sad.
Yeah.
And then the just like a storm's coming, like winter's coming, and all that. You're just like, then the goblin like took his horn off. Man, yeah.
That almost felt very Adam and Eve.
Very much. There's a lot of biblical
really
themes in this movie, not just fairy tales like a Grimm's fairy tale come to life, but there's, I mean, other than Tim Curry looking like the literal devil.
Yeah. And when he tempted Lily, a tempter, so yeah. Maybe some mild allegory.
I'm still going to be salty about that because the whole part of unicorn mythology says that only virgins can even approach unicorns because they're the purest type of person. What a cool construct to carry around in your brain forever. But like, why would she be the unicorn's downfall if she's one of the safest people that a unicorn recognizes? Also, why are the unicorns making whale sounds? Why are they whales?
I know. That's weird. Also, maybe as long as we're talking about the unicorns and like the atrocities that apparently she committed, because Jack was being very standoffish from Lily when she did that. It's like, you shouldn't have done it. It's forbidden. like these creatures can't be touched, and then like Lily goes away, and then Jack runs into what's his name, the elf fairy boy,
Gump, I think is his name.
Thank you,
His
Gump
name is
and
Gump.
Gump and
on the bench
Brown Tom. Which I don't.
My name is Forrest. He casually remarked. Sorry, go ahead, guys.
Brown Tom and what was his something like Screwball. Like anyway,
Yeah.
Names aside, he runs into them, and he's like, "She touched one of the unicorns," and Gump's like, "What?"
Yeah,
like, and everything was like collapsed his knees, and then he's like, "I'm in love with her," and they're like, "Oh, well, yeah, well, I mean, if you're in love with her," and then it just was all okay.
All right, we'll let you off. We'll let you off. We understand, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the power of love. That's one of the points I wanted to bring up, actually. So I'm glad we got to it naturally. I was like, this is hilarious. They just like, hey, it's like all that bad blood that developed between Superman and Batman during BVS, Dawn of Justice. And then they find out their moms are named Martha. Then all that tension just melts away.
Well, guess we got to be best friends now.
Guess we got to be besties now.
Brothers hug.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that was fun. I mean, I understand for the sake of moving the plot along, you can't dwell on things for too long. But man, it just still felt some just like, oh well, okay, well that makes. I mean, if you love her,
that's fairy tale logic, though. That's just something that everybody's on board with in fairy tales. They're like,
you know what, Lindsay? That's a really good point. You're right. yeah, it's all about love, the power.
A man
of love.
you met once. Let's go find him and marry him immediately. We got to get you there, girl.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Fairy tale logic is out there.
Cough, cough. Titanic. Cough.
Yep.
Titanic is a fairy tale.
Hey, you need a glass of water.
Titanic is a very inconveniently timed one-night stand. That's what that was.
I mean, I guess if we're gonna
He's not wrong.
go to the terms of when they consummated their love, but I mean, it's more than one night that the movie takes place.
I think it's still building up to the one-night stand part.
Okay. But
all that
it
was a one-night cruise. It was just extended. Like those dating cruises that you should never go on, because if you disappear in the middle of the ocean, nobody cares. You can commit so many crimes on cruise ships. Don't keep doing that.
But I buy that more so, like Lindsay said, because it's fairy tale logic, than I do Superman screaming Martha at Batman before he's about to kill him. I'm sorry, I laughed out loud in the theater when they were screaming that at each other.
That warrants a therapy session, like a group therapy discussion about why.
Martha, and my number one pet peeve is Jonathan Kitt dying in the tornado.
Yeah, that's stupid too. Like, come on.
I'm sorry, that should not have happened, dude. He should have died of a heart attack, man. That's the one thing that Clark couldn't save him from.
Well,
you know,
I mean, and other similar illnesses like cancers.
Well, yeah, but you know, like
good slow burn version.
You know, he like in the original. I say the original film, the classic Superman the movie. You know, he dies of a heart attack and he falls over and he's like, and he's helpless. He can't do anything. Like he could lift cars and, you know, jump great lengths, but
fly, run faster than a bullet. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, there's a tornado and all he had to do was just like jump in there and like shield him or zip in there and grab him real quick. You know, I'm sorry. Just like don't.
There's some weird choices in that film for sure.
I get why they did it for the story, but it was ridiculous in my opinion because I don't know, like it almost just didn't make sense to me. With all of his super abilities, he could have helped him, but anyway.
So I got a weird note about this movie. Just remembering Tim Curry as a human being as he is, he's never been buff, right? He's never been like a fit, trim guy. So like,
he's a theater kid, that Tim Curry, like the rest of us.
Yeah.
So did they
Theater and
put
band.
makeup abs on him for his darkness?
They did. There's
look?
a whole suit, like a muscle suit. Like you can find the making of on YouTube, which is really great. But where it shows them doing the sculpt of his head, and it's got the
it took hours to get into that, and he's not a tall guy, right? He's like 5'9", but apparently with all that get up on, he was like 7'3".
Good Lord.
It was impressive.
That would have been worth.
It's like
to walk around at 7'3".
It's like Ron Perlman and Doug Jones in the Hellboy series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Dave Grohl
Hours
had
of
the
makeup.
Party City version in that Tenacious D music video. Who wouldn't want to be on like big giant hooves, glittery, sparkly, fabulous hooves, and be over 7 foot tall?
Yeah, you know what? After watching this again, I did notice that a lot of the characters went in light, had kind of like a light shimmer sparkle on their face. I don't know if that was to kind of enhance.
And Tim Curry still have glitter in their ass cracks from Legends.
Oh, probably.
I tweeted that yesterday. I was like,
you know, when you're like
Tom Cruise is still shaking glitter out of his hair.
No. You know when you're just like going about your day and someone's like, "You have glitter on your face," and you're like, "No, I don't. Why would I ever do that?" That's what Tom Cruise and Tim Curry are still doing with little pieces of whatever that fairy dust pollen is floating around.
It's like grains of sand. Like there's gonna be some there forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No matter how many times you vacuum, they're gonna have a couple grains of sand somewhere deep in the.
I guarantee you, during the filming of the new Batman, they were shooting a scene, and all of a sudden, cut.
Twilight glitter
Patrick,
on the scene, you guys.
Patrick, we're still picking up glitter on your face, man. From Twilight. Makeup, get makeup in here.
That's Robert.
I'm so sorry.
I'm
so sorry. Yeah, not Patrick. Robert.
What a constant. What a painful constant reminder.
Hey,
I'm sorry, guys.
You know what?
Forgets.
As bad as I don't like those movies, and I don't think they're good, and they're horrible messages to young people, those movies gave him and Kristen Stewart the money and the influence to do whatever they want to do as actors.
Yeah,
so.
You're absolutely right about
Robert
that.
Pattinson to be Batman, he first had to be
which, if I could say something, not to veer too far off of Legend, but like most everyone I knew was like, "Oh my God, Robert Pattinson is going to play Bruce Wayne Batman." Like really, the guy from Twilight. I'm like, hold on. Have you seen his recent films? Like the guy can act his ass off. Like he didn't have a lot to work with. And Kristen Stewart, she's also in her renaissance. Like Secret Shopper was incredible.
He survived the whole movie encounter with Willem Dafoe. I think Robert Pattinson can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The Lighthouse.
Also, can we not remember how outraged everybody was in the 80s before the internet when they said Michael Keaton was going to be Batman? Could you imagine what that would have been like today with the internet?
You have to remind me. Let me write it down right now. But there is a video that I saved from YouTube, and it's like news reporters asking people on the street what they thought about Michael Keaton being Batman, and they were just trashing. It's like what you'd see online, but it's just people on the news, like just trashing Michael Keaton, man, for being Batman. Like, oh yeah, it's not going to be good. I do not see Michael Keaton as Batman.
Do you guys remember the social media response when they said Heath Ledger was cast as the
that's
Joker?
What I was just about to bring up. Like, really, that guy from 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale is going to be the Joker, the darkest comic book villain in Batman's history. And he killed it. He killed it.
Yeah, so
we knocked it out of the park. Overshowed Batman by a lot, in my opinion.
I mean, it typically happens if you cast the right Joker that they sometimes overshadow Batman. Also, people tend to be more so far. Other than Batman Begins, most of the Batman movies, they're more interested in the villains anyways.
Yeah. Well, the villains of Batman are good.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a great set of villains, but
great what is it called? Rogues Gallery.
But yeah, we should not prejudge actors' performances or casting choices till we see them, because
I agree. And when I heard Robert Pattinson was playing it, I was immediately excited because I know what Robert Pattinson's capable of, and he looks good in the film. Like I saw the original trailer. I saw like the original trailer, then the first like official trailer. That was it. I don't want to know anything else. I'd just rather go watch the film.
I will be honest. My first initial reaction was, "Oh man, another Batman!" Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm excited now from what I've seen, but I was kind of like, "Man, let's do some other stuff, DC."
There are so many other DC heroes they could do.
I'm like, come on, Marvel's whooping your butts now.
Yeah.
And I will say something right now. I have just watched the first episode of Peacemaker. I have not seen anything else.
You are in
and it is
treat.
already one of the best DC properties I have ever seen.
I can tell you with all assurance, it only gets better.
It's hilarious.
It really does.
Wait until you get to the last episode.
But dude,
I am so ready for this. Like, I'm going to watch more a little bit later this evening, and I'm excited. I've been thinking about it all day. Like, I'm ready to watch more episodes. So,
it's so good
for DC. Like, it took everybody was going on about how DC. And I'm not ragging on DC because I think that DC does have some quality to it. To just, in my personal opinion, people, I just do not feel it is up to par with Marvel and what they've got going on and their interconnected properties, because it's badass in my opinion. But yeah, I think that they took that Marvel formula and added it to DC, and it made it better in my opinion. Like, that's why I think Peacemaker is doing so good. That's why I think the Suicide Squad did so well.
Well,
and Shazam and you've got Aquaman.
Nobody went and saw the new Suicide Squad though. It was a flop. Man, it just was well received.
So yeah, it was just But it took them adding that formula that Marvel
DC
uses
didn't have
with
any
that
humor prior to
they took and added humor to it along with the action, and it made it funny. And those are the most popular DC movies.
Or they dismissed the power of humor in some of the more recurring Batman.
Well, here's
and I'm not saying every movie needs humor, but I think they went hard and heavy with their movies, and it just didn't fit. It didn't work. Like, I think that's why they had issues with it.
Here's the main issue they had. They put all their trust in Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is more appropriate for something like Watchmen, where it's a deconstruction of the superhero story. And Zack Snyder is taking everything entirely too serious. Also, I don't think he likes Superman as a character, so maybe not the right person for Superman. Either he doesn't like it or he doesn't care.
He made it
sorry, Snyder Bros. Also, Justice League, like, you guys butchered that movie because you were so worried about how bad Batman v Superman didn't make as much money as you wanted. And then you also butchered the Suicide Squad because they were trying to, like, fix things before the movie even came out because they were worried about Batman and Superman. But I think after that, for the most part, they've done a pretty good job because they're just doing standalone movies. Like, Wonder Woman was amazing.
Wonder Woman was incredible. Shazam was incredible. Aquaman was incredible. The new Suicide Squad's incredible. Like, yeah, they've definitely done better, 100%. Because I feel like they were trying to catch up with Marvel when they brought out BVS, because it came out like the same year as Captain America: Civil War. It's like, okay, well, if their heroes have to fight each other, let's show DC heroes fighting each other. And it was just, it was just not well made. And I've heard the director's cut actually fixes some of the pacing issues, which is what I feel was one of the biggest detriments in that film was the pacing.
It's still not good, but
yeah,
you at least get a little more clear cut of a vision. Like, same thing with the Snyder cut. I don't like it, but it at least makes more sense.
The Snyder Cut isn't perfect. I feel like I will say this. I feel like it's better than the
it's better than
half Snyder,
the
half Whedon.
The Warner Actually, I don't even call it the Whedon cut. I'm just gonna call it the Warner Brothers cut.
There you go. Well, but
like, I'm not trying to give Whedon a prop up, but I don't think
for sure
anybody would have made that movie good because they're like, no, it has to be under 2 hours. You got to make it funny. You got to blah 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 blah. Yeah. Like, I don't think anybody would have made that movie good.
Probably not. I will say this about the Snyder Cut. While it is not perfect, it gave me some of the best scenes that I've ever seen in comic book films, and every single one of them involved the Flash.
Despite his issues, I think he's a great Flash.
Yeah, no, I like Ezra Miller's Flash, but basically, like, when he first meets Iris, when she's in that crash, and then he goes and saves her, it's that whole slow-mo segment. And then this was in the original cut too, but when he was like racing around Superman, and then Superman like followed him, he was like, "Oh no!" And then of course his time travel one was very good.
Yeah,
it sounded like you wanted to say something though.
The only issue I had was by that point we had already seen like 3 or 4 other unnecessary slow-mo sequences, so I was kind of done with it because there's the slow-mo sequence with Aquaman. And there's a slow-mo sequence with Lois Lane. Man,
he is just like J.J. Abrams does the Lens Flare. Like, freaking Zack Snyder's all about those slow-mo shots. And the slow-mo shots make sense with the Flash because he's moving so fast, but everything else is just kind of like, I get a dramatic effect. But I tell you a great example of a movie where, like, slow-down sequences are very good, very well used. That's Guardians of the Galaxy, the original.
Well, that's because James Gunn makes us.
James Gunn just makes a good film. Yeah,
he makes us fall in love with these outcasts of society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he does it all over again in Peacemaker. Chris, I'm very excited for you, sir. You're right. Not only the action in that show is incredible, but not only that show has so much more heart than you would have thought possible. You're going to find out things about Peacemaker that it's going to make your head spin.
Nice. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
ready, man. Hey, whenever you finish it, message me so we can text.
Oh yeah, I will. We've been watching the Marvel Netflix shows because we watched Hawkeye over Christmas, and you know who shows up. You know, I'm not spoiling anything, but somebody shows up, and I'm like, well. Now I need to go watch all the Netflix stuff because we've been sleeping on them. Like I was eventually going to get to them, but just hadn't yet. And I was like, well, let's do it. So we got through the first season of Daredevil. We got through the first season of Jessica Jones. Now we are in Daredevil's season 2.
Excellent.
With Elektra, and we're kind of plowing through them. And as much as I love them, Peacemaker will be a nice little break.
Totally, because there's a little lightheartedness to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So last thing I want to say while we're on the DC Marvel train before we wrap up with Legend,
back onto the
Legend train.
Yeah.
The reviews haven't come out, but what I've heard about the Batman is pretty good, and I hear the chemistry between Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz is almost as good as Keaton and Pfeiffer.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, if I could, here, one more thing, I guess, before we jump back on, unless there's another can of worms. I think actually one of the delays, this movie's been delayed a bit. One, because COVID has been a delay for everything, for all production. Then I think Pattinson actually came down with COVID.
Yes, he did.
And he was out for 2 weeks or a month. And then I think what's her name playing Catwoman?
Zoe Kravitz.
I think those two are an item now.
No, she's dating Channing Tatum, I think.
Okay, all right. Sorry, that was false information that I heard. Okay, well, never mind then.
Channing Tatum. Yeah, Magic Mike.
Magic Mizzle himself. Go ahead, Cody.
Is there you said you had some notes, so is there anything else you want to talk about Legend before we rate it?
Yeah, so we went with what I called the power of love, and then I talked about the dark shadowy things. There's a couple more. So in the sequence when they're inside the fortress and Lily is being, onset by darkness, she sees him at first and then passes out, and then like he's standing over her, and it's just kind of weird. It looks like she wants to scream, but she can't manage it. It's like she's like almost like panting like a dog, just and it's just. And she never screams, ever. Which I don't know if I respect that, because screaming happens so much in movies, and maybe it's one of those things that's overplayed. But it was so funny, like she ran away. And then, this is kind of similar. This one really caught me. Was when, basically, she's saying, like, I'll do nothing for you. And he's like, oh, he like, knocks over dishes on the table, and then eventually he's like, she's like, will you grant me one gift on my wedding night? And she's like, of course, anything. He's like, I want to kill the unicorn. The look on his face, he's just it's like, what's going on right now? And then he just laughs, but it's just awkward. Before
now he's really into it.
It's like did he just get off? Like what?
Yep, I think he did.
Yeah, in his soul he did. Yeah. And the last the last note I want to bring up. These are just things I noticed in the film. Like I don't necessarily think these are detractors or make the film bad. It's just except for like the dark and shadow thing. But just more things that made me laugh. Be like, well, I don't know if that's how that would work. This one I call the power of light. When they set up all the light things, like the reflections, and and Jack is battling darkness, and he's like on the ropes, and then like they finally get the final thing set up on the tip of the tower, and then it like comes down, and that one poor like elf is like still like he's the one guy who got locked out from the battle. The one they found later, who was the one dressed as the goblin earlier.
Deep Roy. That's Deep Roy.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, wow.
So apparently the way light works in that world is it has mass, because when the light beam shone on the door, he was like, oh, and it just knocked both doors over like a battering ram.
That's what I thought. I was like, poor dude got blown up with the light.
Poor dude got blown up, but he's okay. But you know what? I swear, in the next few scenes, he's darker. So he got like the world's dopest tan ever.
Oh man.
Like he didn't have to pay what's that place called? Sun Coast or whatever. No, actually I think that was an old media store back in like the early 90s. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, just the light beam just barreled through that door like a battering ram and shot darkness into space, essentially. Then he became a constellation. But then at the end of the film, when they're like waving goodbye, like you see him kind of like laughing.
Yeah, that's not in the director's cut.
I can't exist without darkness. Blah, 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 blah. It's always going to be in balance. So yeah, just the power of light, man. The power of light and the power of love, guys.
Oh,
if you got light and love, we don't need anything else. The power of love will get us out of any trouble. And the power of light will vanquish any foe that we have in front of us, apparently.
That's right.
Speaking of that,
movies.
That meal he's like offering her, that is not appetizing. Everything is like rotten looking.
Oh, I swear when that wine glass is filling up, it was filling up with blood. Like that had to have been blood, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know reaction like of her, like, and especially like when like I guess she's pretending to be tempted or being tempted, and they have her like in that ultra goth makeup and outfit. But this was her first movie, so you know.
She did too bad for her first movie.
Yeah, this is her first film. So, pretty good job. I mean, what are you going to do when you're acting opposite Tim Curry, though, who's like acting his butt off?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like Jennifer Connelly acting opposite David Bowie. Like, not that David Bowie was a huge actor, but David Bowie has like such a screen presence and a charisma about him.
I am terrified by David Bowie in The Labyrinth.
Yeah, I think we all are a little bit, my guy.
I think I'm more terrified of the cod piece than I am.
Yeah.
Yep. I am convinced that's a puppet in there. That's
my friend Chris refers to them as Moose Knuckle. It's the uncredited goblin Moose Knuckle. Now they're just
it should get its own credit. Someone should edit that into the credits.
But that would be a good double feature.
Yeah. A fun production fact. Apparently, the reason that's there, it was actually because the sets were so hot. Like David Bowie didn't want to stink up the place. Apparently, with his smelly manhood, I guess it was a bag of potpourri.
Man,
okay.
Which I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe putting like a piece of dog poop in like a golden foil wrapper. Like no matter what, it's still crap underneath.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Weird random fact. Okay, David Bowie.
Yeah. Oh, hey, guy. It was David Bowie.
I'll never look at David Bowie the same way.
But
I mean, may he rest in peace. But man, it was an oddball.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything else really. I feel like we touched on.
No, I think we covered David Bowie's manhood, so I think we're pretty good.
A little bit of everything, which seems typical whenever we get together. We always veer off at some point to talk about other movies, which is fine with me.
Yeah, it happens. So
it does.
So with the Ridley Scott ratings, because he has a artistic art school background, this is the way I came up with the ratings. So if you love this movie, you think it's a masterpiece, you think it's great, it's a work of art. If you think it's obscure, it's only for fans, only cinephiles, of course, deep dive. If you think it's entertaining, it hits the mark, it does what it's supposed to, it's constructurally sound. If it it's not quite up to snuff, it's mediocre, it's a pat on the back, nice effort. And then if it's a disaster, a total failure, it's horrible, well, that only belongs on Ridley's mommy's fridge.
Oh, wow. That's good. I like that. Okay, I guess I'll go first. Man, I feel like this is somewhere between a deep dive and... What was the third rank?
Oh, a nice pat on the back. Good try. Good effort.
Yeah. I feel like it's somewhere between there. I do have fondness for this film, and it'll always have a special place in my heart. Upon watching it again, I do notice some things. Again, this might have just been from just the version I watched. If I bring my DVD, if I break out my DVD ever, if I find it, and watch that, maybe it'll be better. The visuals. But yeah, it accomplishes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I would encourage you, if you can, to go find the director's cut and watch it. It may not make the movie higher for you, but you'll at least get a more complete.
Well, that's the thing. I'm pretty sure the copy I do own is the director's cut because, like I said, I remember Jack kind of flattering Meg the Bog Witch. I know that wasn't her last name, but that's what I call her. I remember him flattering her to try to get her to lower her guard before he cut her head off. I remember other things in the movie that weren't in the other cut. So I think that's the cut I have. I will find it, and whenever I do, I will watch it again. Maybe one of those things where I would revitalize my opinion of it. Not that that'll ever be expressed unless I just put it on my social media, I guess. But yeah, I would say I would rank it deep dive mostly. It hits most of the marks for me. It's somewhere in between like fresh and nostalgic. It did accomplish what it is. It is, and you guys made great points earlier about like the current kind of film climate and how everyone's trying to build connective universes and how no one just like makes just a standalone story anymore. This is very fresh and unique in that regard, and it's a film that I cherish, just like any 80s fantasy film. It just isn't quite up to my 100% gold standard.
It's fair.
Let's see. I'm going to go with... It's not quite a work of art, and that's because, like, visually, it is a work of art, but story wise, it doesn't quite push me there. So I'm going to go with Deep Dive. Like, it does hold a lot of nostalgia for me. I remember watching it, several times when I was younger. I think
Does
it's
that
still
make it more of a cinephile experience for you?
Yeah, maybe Deep Dive or cinephile experience. Like it's probably again more for us older guys. They grew up.
Don't be so
They grew up
vague.
watching it.
Don't be so vague, us guys, us older
So,
guys.
Us older people, are more likely to go back and watch it.
Oh, soldier chops.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah.
I need the scale again, Cody. I'm sorry. The one I'm thinking of, I don't think is fair. It's the only
Okay,
one
well, work of art's like it's great. Constructually sound, it's good. Deep dive, it could mean anything. That just means you think it's more obscure. It's not something you would recommend to everyone. Nice pat on the back, good effort is meh. And then only for Ridley's mommy's fridge is, oh, that was bad.
See, that's the one I was thinking of, but I was like, no, that's not fair. It's beautiful, and Ridley clearly colored inside the lines and worked really hard to have lots of different colors. But I think that makes it more of a constructurally sound film. I think if you're measuring by like the photography, the cinematography, the shots, the way they're taken, the choices that are made, visually, it's absolutely constructurally sound, and we'll just ignore the dialogue. Even in like the fairy tale context, I think it's constructurally sound for what it was trying to be, and it's beautiful to look at. And I'll just keep rewatching it on that factor alone. I almost said Ridley's Mommy's Fridge, but I don't think that's quite there.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think it is more of a deep dive, but it is constructurally sound. They did what they set out to do. They brought a Grimm's fairy tale to life. And visually, artistically, this is a work of art. I mean, this is one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen. And Tim Curry alone elevates this movie to
okay.
As does anything
you, and if you have seen it, fast forward to this one shot, and it's him standing in front of this altar in front of his fireplace where Jack and Gump are sitting in the background watching him, and his arms are stretched out to the sky, and you can see his horns, and he's just a silhouette in front of this huge bellowing fireplace, which I know was a set, and it looked absolutely gorgeous, like a painting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Cody. Go ahead. But that just, when you said it looked visually stunning, that shot always comes to mind, because it really did look like a Gothic painting of a demon, and it was gorgeous. Like, I have no words.
Yeah, I think this is a good movie for what it's doing. Is it a great movie? Probably not, but I mean, I can't believe people like poo-pooed on this movie. Like, I mean, I would die if they would make movies like this now. Okay, dialogue's a little clunky. Okay, the acting's not great other than Tim Curry. Interesting fact, they thought about casting Mickey Rooney for this movie, but decided,
really?
You're not short enough compared to Tom Cruise, so we can't put you in here. Because I think they wanted to make him one of the woodland creatures or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think if you love fantasy films, you should definitely check this out.
100%.
And if you want to be a Ridley Scott completionist, check it out. And also, why didn't Mia Sara become a bigger star other than being Ferris Bueller's girlfriend? I don't really know what else she's done.
Yeah.
She does such a good job.
And then if you want to see a weird in-between Tom Cruise movie and performance before he became what we know Tom Cruise to be, check it out.
Yeah.
If I may, real quick, I need to make an addendum. I misunderstood the grading scale, just so the record's clear with the fans listening. I realize now that I went with like 3-4 as my kind of like gravitating betweens when I actually meant to be going between 2-3. So like deep dive and constructionally sound.
Okay.
I still think
Hey, buddy,
I think
it's okay.
I
You
would
might
land
have
on
upset one of our tens of fans. So
right.
They're
Well,
raising that one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that small cult of legends, like, oh, he didn't like it.
in regards
Yeah.
to the truth,
you might get one bad, a thumbs down, but other
all right.
than that,
Hey, guys, don't at me.
yeah.
I'm setting the record straight now, so you don't have to at me. I would actually, gentlemen and lady, I would change my now that I understand the scale better. Constructionally sound is what I would upgrade it to.
Okay.
Not
So
that really
before
probably changed much.
before we call tonight and I let you go, he had 2 movies come out last year. Have you had a chance to see either The Last Duel or House of Gucci?
The Last Duel is on my list to watch on HBO Max. I wanted to see both of these in theaters. I wanted to see House of Gucci in theaters, both of them. But just life and time and money just did not allow at the time. And I really regret not seeing The Last Duel because I heard The Last Duel is really good. I also heard that Ridley got pretty salty that people would go and see it in theaters.
I've got him.
Yeah, he
just
did.
have not seen them.
Blamed it on like basically millennials, which
And their phones.
what else
Just
is
go
new?
ahead and blame everything on millennials.
Yeah.
Well, they do it anyway.
Millennials
You
and
know what's-
Marvel.
you know what's
and
fun-
avocado toast. God damn it.
Yeah, what a bunch of assholes we are.
But I don't know if sometimes when old people mean millennials, do they actually mean millennials or do they just think anyone under 50 is a millennial?
I think
Because,
that's what it is. Also, I think a lot of people now what they mean to say is Generation Z, but just millennials
they're-
has
They
it's
can't
like
be
a
bothered to
buzzword.
learn the new name. Like they're just like, it's
Yeah,
all
exactly.
millennials. That's the last one I remember. They're all awful.
I was like, just like they're like these damn kids going to South Padre Island when COVID's going on. Them damn millennials, like what? Like you guys, the youngest millennial right now is like 32, 33. Like we're not the people going to South Padre Island anymore.
We don't have the time off. What
Right.
are you talking about?
Yeah.
South
We don't
Padre
have time
Island?
off. We don't have the
What are
money.
you talking about? We
We
got
don't
to pay
have-
rent.
Hey guys, I think all of you agree with me. We don't have the energy for that.
Nope. I think maybe,
Yeah,
I'm not sure where the cutoff is, but it might be people in their late 20s are still millennials, but like people that are like in college are not millennials anymore, you know.
Right.
No.
No, it's dumb. We have
Yeah.
precisely enough energy to watch movies and then get on here and either celebrate or
And
bitch about
discuss them
Exactly.
very passionately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that is
People
fine
ask me
with
how
me.
old I am, and I was like, okay, when we were in college, I was helping my buddy haul a box TV up into his second story dorm. That's how
Oh,
old we
what
are.
TV
So,
were you
yeah,
moving around the most often?
a box TV, guys.
Stop.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
definitely be dated by the type of the hardware you tell a person you had. Like, what were you
Yeah.
rocking visually? Well, you know, I had a Zenith Platinum XL with a good old Ray Vac VCR. I can't remember the name of the brand.
Yeah.
But like, they're like, oh my gosh, man, how old are you? I'm like, don't ask me about it.
And we still have the option to rent VHS along with our DVD. Okay,
That's
people.
right.
Yeah.
That's
But,
right. We are the blockbuster generation, proudly.
we are. His next movie is about Napoleon. What do you think about that?
I'm excited. I'm here for it. Here's the deal. Like, when he does do like large battlescape films like Kingdom of Heaven, I would say Kingdom of Heaven is probably the best example. Or I guess maybe on the lighter end, Gladiator. They're always a good spectacle to see. As far as Napoleon's actually a leader from France that I have a lot of respect for. Mostly because he cared very deeply about his troops and didn't want to send them off needlessly to death, which is something you don't always see in military commanders. So a biopic about his not a biopic, a drama about his life. I think I'm here for it. I would love to see it, kind of see who they get to play him, what that film will look like. So yeah, I'm excited for it. And it comes out this year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Next year,
okay,
2023.
I think it's a fairly new project.
And I think it's going to go to a streamer. So Ridley
Really?
Scott is.
It's going straight to a streaming service.
Well, I think it'll probably have a limited run in theater, but it's going to be.
Oh, you know
Apple
what?
TV.
That's his saltiness. Like, you know what? People didn't go see The Last Duel. Fuck it. Just send it straight to HBO Max.
Well, I think also, the movie industry is changing, not just with COVID, but people have been going to the theater less because of the prices and now COVID.
Right.
And also, studios aren't wanting to throw all this money. They don't even care what director you are. Like, if it costs too much money, they're like, I don't know. So, if these streamers are going to throw a bunch of money at you and say, go make your Napoleon movie.
Take it from a guy who has been at the theaters at least a few times in the last couple of months. They are still, for the most part, fairly empty. They are more populated than they have been in the last couple of years since COVID started. But let me tell you what nothing stopped filling the seats up, and that was Spider-Man No Way Home. Because
nobody wanted to. Sorry.
You're good. Over you. That movie was sold out for like the first month and a half that I wanted to go see it. Every single time, didn't matter what showing, like there was nothing but crap seats left. I'm like, okay, finally I went and got to see it like just early on, a day that like no one was at the theater, and even still it was packed with people. And it was fantastic. It was definitely worth the watch.
I mean, that's part of like that interconnected universe. It's part of people don't want to get spoiled on the internet. I think that was a big factor in Spider-Man.
Also, it is a huge step forward for the future of the Marvel universe as it is right now.
Absolutely. And also people just wanted to see what they thought was going to happen in the movie.
Right. There was so much speculation about that. Some of the things that I assumed ended up being true. Some of the things I thought would happen did not happen. And I was pleasantly surprised on all fronts.
Also, if you do want to upgrade your copy of Legend, Arrow Video, which is a UK home video company that do Blu-ray and 4K transitions of like obscure genre movies, there's a Arrow copy that I would like to have my hands on with Legend.
Okay, cool. I will definitely look into that. Arrow Legend Blu-ray. Okay.
Yep. And is there anything you want to plug before we let you go?
Yeah. So for those of you who've caught me in the past, as you know, I am part of a podcast called Banter. We release on the first and third Mondays of every month. It's just kind of an easy listening Monday morning show with me and a couple of friends from Austin, where we talk about anything from pop culture phenomenon to holidays and their relevant impact on society to just video games and entertainment. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of different things. So yeah, just look us up. We are available on most places you get podcasts. And one more time, that is Banter. If you would like to follow me personally on Twitter, I do have one of those. My handle is at 8BitWizard. The 8 is Roman numerical. Love for you to follow me and tweet stuff at me, even if it's complaints, I guess, maybe. So yeah.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for agreeing to talk about this movie, even if it wasn't quite the nostalgic remembrance you had when you watched it in your 20s. But I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
An evening with the Rejects is always a wonderful evening, and I do appreciate you guys continuing to involve me and inviting me over. I love collabing with you guys. It's great. So yeah, I hope to continue to collaborate with you guys in the future.
Absolutely.
Yay, thank you.
You're welcome back anytime. For those who are watching now, we had a viewer. They left. They even left some comments about the movie, which was kind of cool.
Cool.
But future viewers, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, We're gonna leave Ridley Scott alone for a while because we're gonna go visit the world of the Coen brothers for the month of March. So next week we're talking their debut film, Blood Simple, a Texas noir thriller. We'll be back with Ridley Scott in April, and these first 4 films were very much an artistic, interesting projects that I think would have put Ridley on a different route, but because of Blade Runner and Legend being kind of not well received in financial disasters, we get into the director for hire part of Ridley Scott's career, and we start seeing this back and forth of him kind of getting popular again and being able to finance passion projects, and then those not doing well, and then him having to do other movies to finance other passion projects. So we're going to see a lot more up and down in quality of films as we further along, and there's a lot of direct for hire jobs in April's batch of movies. But we return in April with Ridley Scott, but in March we're going to be talking Coen brothers. So thanks for watching. Stay warm and have a safe weekend, and don't be a crappy person. Be nice to people.
Yes.